Ladies and gentlemen, there is something extraordinary about a woman who knows her worth. You can see it in her posture, hear it in her voice, and feel it in her presence. She doesn't beg for attention. She commands respect. She doesn't chase validation. She walks in revelation. She has learned that her value is not determined by who left, who stayed, or who noticed. Her worth was set long before the world ever tried to define it. A woman knows her worth. She becomes unshakable. Life can throw storms at her, but she doesn't break. She bends and bounces back stronger. People can walk away from her, but she doesn't crumble. She blesses them and keeps moving forward. She understands that rejection is not the end. It's redirection towards something greater. She's no longer moved by what people think because she's anchored in what she knows. She knows she is chosen. She knows she is powerful. She knows she carries something divine inside of her that no one can take away. When the enemy tries to whisper lies of inadequacy, she reminds herself, I am enough. This kind of woman doesn't need to prove herself to anyone. Her confidence is quiet. Her strength is steady. Peace is priceless. She walks with grace, not arrogance, humility, not fear. She knows that real beauty is found in authenticity, not approval. She doesn't shrink to make others comfortable. She doesn't apologize for being strong, wise, or capable. She doesn't settle for less because she knows she was created for more. When life tries to shake her, she doesn't fall apart. She stands tall and lets the storm reveal her roots. A woman who knows her worth doesn't beg for love. She embodies it. She doesn't compete. She completes herself. She doesn't run after opportunities. Opportunities are drawn to her. She's not desperate for validation. She's destined for victory. Her worth doesn't come from her title, her appearance, or her past. It comes from her essence. She is divine by design, chosen by purpose, and protected by grace. When she walks into a room, the atmosphere shifts because she carries power, peace, and presence. She knows that pain was not meant to destroy her. It was meant to develop her. Every heartbreak, every disappointment, every trial was molding her into a masterpiece. She stopped asking, why me? And started declaring, watch me. This woman, she's unshakable, breakable, unstoppable. She knows that no weapon formed against her shall prosper, and no opinion formed about her shall define her. Her value doesn't decrease when others fail to see it. Her crown doesn't fall when others refuse to acknowledge it. So, to every woman listening, rise up. Remember who you are. Remember what you've overcome. Remember that your worth doesn't depend on what you've lost, but on what you carry within. Walk boldly. Love deeply, and never forget, a woman who knows her worth doesn't wait for the world to validate her. She doesn't chase approval. She doesn't compete for attention, and she doesn't compromise herself just to feel seen. Her worth is not something she performs for, it's something she possesses. From the moment she came into this world, she carried value within her soul. That value is not based on what she does, who she knows, or how perfectly she fits into the world's expectations. It is inherent. For far too long, many women have been taught to measure their worth through the eyes of others, to be enough only if they look a certain way, act a certain way, or achieve certain milestones. Society often whispers, you're only valuable if you're desired. You're only worthy if you're chosen. You're only beautiful if they approve. But the truth is, none of those external opinions hold the power to define a woman who truly knows herself. Her worth doesn't fluctuate with her circumstances. It doesn't rise when she's praised or fall when she's overlooked. It doesn't fade when she makes mistakes or when people fail to recognize her light. Her worth remains constant, unmoved, unshaken, changeable, because it comes from something eternal. A woman who knows her worth understands that her identity is not rooted in performance. She doesn't have to earn love by giving more than she receives. She doesn't have to prove her goodness by sacrificing her peace. She doesn't have to wear a mask just to be accepted. She has learned that the most sacred thing she can ever be is herself. When she looks in the mirror, she no longer sees her flaws as failures. She sees them as reminders that she's human, beautifully imperfect, and still worthy of everything she dreams of. She no longer apologizes for taking up space, speaking her truth, or choosing herself. She knows that self-worth is not arrogance, it's awareness. It's the realization that she is already enough right here, right now. There comes a moment in every woman's life when she wakes up and decides, I am done proving myself. She's done bending until she breaks just to be loved. She's done accepting half-hearted efforts from people who can't see her full value. She's done measuring her worth by how much she gives to those who take her for granted. In that moment, she reclaims her power. She begins to operate from a place of fullness instead of emptiness. A woman who knows her worth doesn't chase, she attracts. She doesn't beg, she receives. She doesn't force, she flows. Because she understands that what is meant for her will recognize her value without needing explanation. Her worthiness is not up for debate. She doesn't have to audition for love or perform for validation. She simply has to be. Her self-worth becomes her shield. It protects her from manipulation, from settling for less, and from believing that she must shrink to be accepted. When someone tries to make her feel small, she remembers who she is. When life tests her strength, she reminds herself of what she carries inside. When her past tries to whisper, you're not enough, she speaks back with power, I am more than enough. Her worth is not measured by her relationship status, her income, or her appearance. It is not tied to how many people admire her or how perfectly she lives her life. Her worth exists because she exists. It is divine, sacred, and untouchable. Even when life breaks her, her worth remains intact. Even when she falls, it doesn't diminish. Even when she doubts herself, her value doesn't disappear. It's just waiting for her to remember. She learns that worthiness is not a destination. It's a revelation. It's not something she has to achieve. It's something she awakens to. It's the quiet confidence that whispers, I belong here. I matter. I have purpose. That awareness becomes her foundation. It steadies her when life gets heavy and strengthens her when others try to shake her. When a woman walks in that kind of knowing, everything about her changes. Her energy shifts, her standards rise, her boundaries become firm. She no longer tolerates what dishonors her peace or disrespects her spirit. She doesn't chase attention because she knows attention without respect is empty. She doesn't fight for love because she knows real love recognizes value and never makes her beg for it. A woman who knows her worth doesn't need to be chosen to feel valuable. She chooses herself. She doesn't wait for the world to applaud her. She claps for herself. She celebrates her small wins, honors her growth, and embraces her journey. She knows that she is not behind. She knows that she's exactly where she needs to be. She understands that her worth doesn't come from being perfect. It comes from being whole. She's been broken, but not defeated. She's been overlooked, but not invisible. She's been hurt, but never destroyed. Each scar tells a story of survival, and each chapter reveals strength that no one can take away. Her worth is her birthright. It was given, not granted. She doesn't need to hustle for it, negotiate for it, or earn it through perfection. It's already written into her existence. She doesn't need to prove her light. It shines naturally. She doesn't need to demand respect. It follows her presence. She doesn't need to explain her power. It speaks for itself. And when the world tries to convince her otherwise, she remembers who she is. She reminds herself that she was made with intention, that she carries something sacred within her, that her presence is purposeful, and her voice carries weight. She's not here to be accepted by everyone. She's here to live in alignment with herself. Because a woman who knows her worth walks differently. She loves differently. She speaks differently. She no longer moves from fear. She moves from faith. She no longer hides her light. She shines unapologetically. She no longer doubts her strength. She lives it out loud. Her worth isn't earned, it's eternal. And once she understands that truth, she becomes unshakable. No opinion can lower it. No betrayal can break it. No rejection can erase it. She knows that she is enough. She has always been enough, and she will always be enough. A woman who knows her worth is not defined by the calm. She's revealed in the storm. The real measure of her strength is not found when life is gentle, but when the winds roar, when the rain falls hard, and when everything she thought she could count on begins to shake. Yet somehow she still stands. She may bend, she may weep, she may stumble for a moment. She does not fall apart. Her roots are too deep, her faith is too strong, and her spirit is too anchored to be moved by temporary chaos. There comes a time when every woman faces storms that test her, storms that come to see what she's really made of. Some storms are loud and violent, breaking through without warning. Others are silent and slow, wearing down the heart one drop at a time. But through every kind of storm, she learns something sacred, that peace is not the absence of trouble. Peace is the presence of strength. She has seen seasons when everything she loved was stripped away, friendships faded, love grew cold, plans crumbled. Yet she discovered something beautiful hidden in the pain, her ability to stand. When the people she counted on disappeared, the doors she prayed for slammed shut, when the weight became too heavy to carry, she found a deeper power rising within her. The power of endurance. Storms don't scare her anymore. Not because they don't hurt, but because she knows what they produce. She understands that rain doesn't come to destroy the seed, it comes to grow it. The storm that was meant to shake her ended up awakening her. Pain that was meant to break her built her foundation. Every trial she's faced has taught her that she doesn't need perfect circumstances to be powerful. She just needs an unshakable spirit. When the storm hits, she doesn't panic. She doesn't question her worth or wonder if she's strong enough. She's been here before. She remembers the last storm, how she thought it would end her. And yet she made it through. That memory becomes her anchor. She's not afraid of the storm because she's already proven she can survive it. People often look at her and wonder how she stays so calm in the chaos. They see her strength, but they don't always understand her scars. They see her composure. They don't see the nights she cried herself to sleep and still got up in the morning with grace. What keeps her standing is not pride. It's peace. It's knowing that even when everything around her is falling apart, she's still held together by something greater than herself. She doesn't fight the storm, she flows through it. She's learned that resistance only exhausts her. Instead, she lets the storm teach her. She lets it strip away what's no longer meant for her, reveal what she truly needs, and strengthen what's been weak for too long. She no longer asks, "Why is this happening to me?" but instead whispers, "What is this trying to teach me?" Because she knows every storm has a purpose. Every heartbreak hides a lesson. Every ending carries a beginning. The winds that once terrified her are now the same winds that propel her forward. Used to shake her now sharpens her. What used to break her now builds her. She stands firm because she knows who she is and who she is. Her strength doesn't come from pride or independence. It comes from alignment with something eternal. She trusts the process. Even when she can't see the way, she believes that there is one. Even when her heart is heavy, she trusts that healing is happening. Even when the storm rages loud, she listens for the still, small voice reminding her, "You are not alone." And when the lightning flashes, she doesn't hide her face. She lifts her eyes and declares, "This storm will not destroy me." Because deep down, she knows that storms don't come to end her story. They come to reveal her strength. She has seen too much, endured too much, and grown too much to go back to being who she was before. There was a time when she would crumble under pressure. Fear would silence her, when pain would make her question her value. But now, she knows better. She knows that the same storm that tried to drown her taught her how to swim. The same darkness that once blinded her made her see her light. The same pain that wounded her became her wisdom. When life gets heavy, she reminds herself, "I've been through worse and still risen higher." When betrayal hits, she doesn't seek revenge, she seeks release. When disappointment visits, she doesn't give up, she gives it to grace. When fear knocks, she answers with faith. There's something unexplainable about a woman who's weathered storms and still chooses peace. She has a calmness that can't be faked, confidence that can't be taught, a strength that can't be shaken. You can feel it when she speaks. A quiet authority, a steady assurance that comes only from surviving what should have broken her. She stands firm not because she's never been weak, because she's learned how to stand even while trembling. Her strength is not loud, it's steady. It's not flashy. It's faithful. She doesn't have to announce her resilience. Her presence already proves it. When others see darkness, she sees opportunity. When others run from the storm, she walks through it with her head held high. She knows that every storm eventually runs out of rain, and when it does, she'll still be standing stronger, wiser, softer, and more powerful than before. She doesn't resent the storms anymore because she realizes they made her who she is. Without them, she would have never discovered the depth of her resilience or the power of her peace. Every time the storm tried to bury her, it was actually planting her deeper into purpose. Now, she doesn't fear change. She doesn't dread endings. She doesn't flinch at challenges. She stands with grace in the middle of uncertainty because she's been forged in fire and proven by pain. Her peace is not fragile, it's fortified. Her faith is not shallow, it's deep. Her strength is not borrowed, it's built. So when the next storm comes, she won't ask for it to pass quickly. She'll ask for the courage to grow through it. She'll ask for the patience to stand firm and the wisdom to see the blessing hiding beneath the thunder. Because she knows that no matter how fierce the storm, it cannot shake what's rooted in truth. And when the clouds finally part and the sun returns, she doesn't just survive, she shines brighter. Because every storm she's walked through has polished her spirit and purified her soul. She's no longer the woman she was before the rain. She's wiser, calmer, more compassionate, and more courageous. That's the power of a woman who stands firm in the storm. She's not just surviving, she's rising. She's not just enduring, she's evolving. Though the winds may rage, she remains unshaken because her foundation is not built on comfort. It's built on character. She stands because she knows her worth. She stands because she trusts her purpose. She stands because she's already been through enough to know no storm lasts forever. A woman rooted in faith and self-worth does. She is the calm after her own chaos. She is the peace within her own storm, and she stands firm, unshakable, unbreakable, unstoppable rejection. That word alone can sting. It's something every woman has felt, the sting of being overlooked. The ache of being left out, the silence that follows when you've given your best and it still wasn't enough for someone else. But here's the truth. Rejection is not the end. It's often the beginning of your greatest transformation. What you think is a closed door is often divine redirection. What feels like loss is often protection. What seems like a setback is secretly setting you up for something better. Who knows her worth doesn't let rejection define her. She lets it refine her. She understands that being told no is not a reflection of her value. It's a redirection towards something more aligned with her purpose. She learns to stop crying over what didn't work out and start thanking God for what didn't destroy her. Because if it had truly been meant for her, it wouldn't have left. And if it left, it wasn't meant to stay. There was a time when she took rejection personally. When someone walked away, she blamed herself. When opportunities didn't come, she questioned her talent. When relationships ended, she wondered if she wasn't enough. But growth taught her that rejection is rarely about her worth. It's about alignment. Some doors close because she's outgrown the room. Some people leave because they can't walk where she's going. Some dreams fade because new ones are waiting to be born. Rejection hurts, yes. It also reveals. It reveals who was truly for her and who was only there for convenience. It reveals which paths were built by ego and which were designed by destiny. It reveals that sometimes the pain of being denied something small is preparing her to receive something far greater. Every no she's ever received carried a hidden blessing. The relationship that ended taught her self-respect. The job she didn't get pushed her into her purpose. The friendship that faded made room for peace. The rejection she once thought would break her ended up building her. Now, when she faces rejection, she doesn't fall apart. She pauses and listens. She asks herself, what is this moment trying to teach me? She no longer sees rejection as punishment, but as redirection. A sacred whisper saying, not this way, my child. There's better ahead. She's learned that divine timing doesn't always match her expectations. There were times she begged for something to work, only to realize later that it would have limited her growth. There were seasons she thought she was losing everything, but in truth, she was being repositioned for greater things. The door that closed wasn't rejection, it was protection. because not every good thing is a God thing. A woman who knows her worth no longer chases what walked away. She no longer tries to reopen doors that were meant to close. She doesn't beg for attention, validation, or love that has to be forced. She understands that what is truly meant for her will never need to be begged for. It will flow. What's meant for her will recognize her, respect her, and remain with her. She stops seeing rejection as failure and starts seeing it as feedback from life that she is being redirected toward her rightful place. She realizes that every ending is just a transition, not a tomb. That her story doesn't end when someone leaves, it evolves. That her worth doesn't decrease when others fail to see it, it becomes more defined. When she's rejected, she no longer spirals into self-doubt. She takes a deep breath and says, this is not rejection, this is realignment, because she knows something now that she didn't before. Sometimes you lose what you wanted so you can gain what you need. She doesn't chase closure from those who left. She creates it herself. She no longer waits for apologies or explanations that may never come. Instead, she thanks the experience for the lesson, forgives in silence, and walks forward with peace. Because every time she tried to hold on to what was breaking her, she delayed what was meant to heal her. Her healing came when she stopped asking why and started trusting the what next. She realized that sometimes rejection is the only way life can get her to move. Because let's be honest, sometimes comfort blinds us. Sometimes familiarity feels safer than freedom. And sometimes the only way to get her to step into something greater is to take away what she thought she couldn't live without. So when rejection shows up now, she no longer says, why me? She says, watch me. Watch me rise after this. Watch me learn from this. Watch me glow after what was meant to break me. She transforms rejection into redirection by using every no as motivation to create her own whys. The power of redirection is that it builds resilience. It shifts focus from what's lost to what's next. It reminds her that life isn't happening to her. It's happening for her. Every time someone counted her out, it pushed her to count on herself. Every time she was denied, she discovered more of her own power. Every time she was dismissed, she found deeper confidence. Now she looks back and smiles at the doors that didn't open. Because if they had, she wouldn't be where she is now, wiser, stronger, and freer. What she thought was rejection was actually grace saving her from what she couldn't see. She's learned that when one chapter closes, it's not the end of the story, it's the turning of a page. A woman who knows her worth doesn't chase after what rejected her, she blesses it and moves on. She doesn't shrink when she's not chosen. She stands tall knowing she was never meant to fit in places that couldn't hold her light. She doesn't see rejection as loss, she sees it as liberation. Because every time she's been redirected, she's gotten closer to the life she was truly meant to live. She's grateful now. Grateful for the people who left because they made room for peace. Grateful for the plans that failed because they led to purpose. Grateful for the dreams that changed because they made way for destiny. Rejection no longer breaks her, it builds her faith. It no longer wounds her, it wakes her up. And that's the beauty of her evolution. What once hurt her now helps her. What once made her question her worth now confirms it. No, it was not the end. It was divine redirection pointing her to the truth that what's meant for her cannot miss her. So now she walks differently. She carries peace where pain used to live. She carries confidence where confusion used to dwell. She carries wisdom where wounds once were, because she understands now rejection is not a sign she's unworthy. It's proof she's being guided. She's no longer bitter when things don't work out. She's better because she's been rerouted. Her peace doesn't depend on acceptance. It's anchored in awareness. Her joy doesn't fade when someone leaves. It deepens when she realizes she's still whole. Every time life said, no, she didn't know what was really saying. Not here, not yet. There's more for you. And every time she trusted that truth, she found herself right where she was meant to be. Rejection was never rejection. It was redirection dressed in disguise. And the woman who knows her worth no longer fears it. She welcomes it because she knows deep down that every detour is divine and every closed door is leading her closer to the life she was born to live. There is a rare and radiant kind of power that rises in a woman when she no longer depends on validation to feel worthy. When her confidence no longer comes from applause, attention, or approval, but from a deep knowing within her soul, that is when she becomes unstoppable. Because she is no longer controlled by opinions. She is guided by purpose. She doesn't need someone else to tell her she's enough. She already knows she is. A woman who walks in true confidence doesn't wait for people to clap for her before she takes the next step. She doesn't shrink herself to make others comfortable, nor does she boast to prove she belongs. Her confidence is calm, steady, and sacred. Sacred, it's not loud, but it's powerful. It doesn't demand validation. It commands respect. Once upon a time, she thought confidence came from being admired, from being chosen, praised, or seen. She used to measure her worth through the lens of how others responded to her. Their words, their attention, their approval. The moment she realized that people's opinions could change as quickly as the weather, she decided she would no longer let her peace depend on their forecast. She learned that real confidence isn't built on compliments, it's built on character. She doesn't need a crowd to believe in her dreams. Faith is enough. She doesn't need everyone to understand her path. Her vision is clear. She doesn't need constant reassurance because she's learned to be her own encourager. She looks in the mirror and reminds herself, I've come too far to doubt myself now. Confidence without validation is freedom. It's walking into a room and not wondering if you belong, because you already know you do. It's sharing your truth without fearing who will agree. It's standing tall even when you stand alone. It's being at peace with being misunderstood because you understand yourself. There's a quiet power in the woman who doesn't beg to be seen. She shines effortlessly. Her presence speaks before her words ever do. She doesn't chase opportunities. She attracts them through her energy, her authenticity, and her consistency. She's learned that she doesn't have to prove anything to anyone. She just has to be. She no longer spends her energy trying to convince people of her value. If they see it, beautiful. If they don't, that's fine too. Their recognition is a gift, not a requirement. Her self-worth isn't up for negotiation. She's too grounded to be swayed by opinions and too focused to be distracted by doubt. This woman knows that validation is a trap, because once you start living for it, you lose yourself trying to keep it. You become addicted to approval and allergic to rejection. But the woman who's awakened to her power knows she doesn't need the world's applause to keep walking in her purpose. Her validation comes from the quiet moments when she honors her truth, keeps her promises to herself, and refuses to lower her standards. Her confidence is not built on perfection. It's built on perseverance. It's built on the nights she didn't feel strong but showed up anyway. Days she felt invisible but still spoke her truth. On the moments she doubted her worth but kept moving forward. Every time she refused to quit, her confidence grew stronger. She's no longer desperate for likes, attention, or external affirmation, because she's learned that the same people who praise you today can criticize you tomorrow. The same voices that lift you can turn against you when you stop pleasing them. So she stopped living for applause and started living for alignment. She's no longer performing approval. She's walking in purpose. The woman who no longer needs validation is dangerous, not in arrogance, but in authenticity. She knows who she is. She knows what she carries. She knows that her presence is meaning even when no one acknowledges it. She doesn't need to be seen to be significant. She doesn't need to be followed to be fulfilled. She doesn't need to be crowned to be called. When people misunderstand her confidence as pride, she doesn't explain herself. She's done over explaining. She's done over giving. She's done over probing. She knows her heart, her intentions, and her worth, and that's enough. Her confidence isn't about being perfect. It's about being real. She's not afraid to admit when she's learning, healing, or evolving, because she knows that authenticity builds more strength than image ever will. She can stand tall in her truth because she's no longer trying to impress anyone. She's trying to impact. She's learned that self-assurance doesn't mean she never doubts. It means she doesn't let doubt dictate her direction. It means she listens to fear but doesn't obey it. It means she can feel uncertain and still move forward because her confidence isn't rooted in how she feels, it's rooted in what she knows, that she is capable, chosen, and covered. She's been through too much to let insecurity win. She's cried through nights where she questioned her value, and yet she still rose. Every time she was rejected, overlooked, or underestimated, she learned to clap for herself a little louder. Now, her confidence doesn't come from validation. It comes from survival, from knowing she's made it through what others thought would break her. She no longer asks, "Am I good enough?" She declares, "I was born enough." That's the shift. That's where true power lies, in the decision to stop waiting for someone else to give you permission to believe in yourself. Now, when she walks, she doesn't need attention. Her peace is her glow. She doesn't need to announce her success. Her energy speaks for her. She doesn't need to prove her worth. Her presence already does. She's not performing anymore. She's living, breathing, and walking in freedom. That freedom looks like saying no without guilt. It looks like walking away from what doesn't honor her. It looks like choosing herself, even when others call it selfish, because she's learned that confidence without validation means being secure enough to disappoint others while still being true to herself. Confidence is sacred because it's not dependent. It doesn't rise and fall with people's praise. It stays steady in silence, in solitude, in seasons when no one's watching. That's when it's most powerful. In the quiet moments where she keeps showing up, even when no one is clapping. She knows that the world will not always understand her light, and that's okay because her purpose was never meant to be understood by everyone. Path is hers alone. She doesn't need external affirmation to walk in internal assurance. She doesn't need agreement to move in alignment. She doesn't need validation to know she's valuable. And that's where her power lies, in the stillness of knowing she is enough without anyone having to tell her so. She doesn't need the echo of praise when she already carries the sound of confidence within her soul. She has become her own cheerleader, her own supporter, her own reflection of worth. She no longer asks for permission to shine. She just shines, not because someone told her she could, but because she decided she would. Confidence without validation is liberation. It's the art of being grounded in your truth, rooted in your worth, and unshaken by the noise. It's walking with grace, speaking with conviction, and living with peace, even when no one claps, because she finally understands that her confidence was never supposed to come from others. It was always meant to come from within. That's the woman she has become, steady, radiant, and free. She no longer needs the world to tell her who she is. She already knows. And once a woman reaches that point, nothing and no one can take that away. There is a divine beauty in a woman who carries both grace and strength within her. She is gentle, yet she's powerful. She is kind, yet she's unyielding. She moves with compassion, but she stands with conviction. Her spirit is soft enough to feel, but strong enough to endure. The world may try to make her choose between being nurturing or being powerful, but she has learned that she can be both. Grace and strength were never meant to compete. They were always meant to coexist. The woman who walks in this balance has learned that true power doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers. Sometimes it forgives. Sometimes it lets go. Her strength isn't loud or forceful. It's steady, quiet, and enduring. And her grace is not weakness. It's wisdom wrapped in peace. She doesn't need to shout to prove her worth, nor does she need to fight every battle to show her power. Her grace is her armor, and her strength is her foundation. She's walked through storms that could have hardened her heart, but instead they humbled her. She's faced betrayal that could have made her bitter, but instead it made her better. She's been broken, but she didn't become cold. She chose softness in a world that tried to make her hard. That's what real strength looks like. To still choose love after pain, to still give after loss, to still hope after disappointment. Grace is not weakness, it's control. It's the ability to remain calm in chaos, kind in cruelty, compassionate in confusion. Strength is not dominance, it's discipline. The decision to stay grounded when everything around you is trying to pull you apart. Together, grace and strength make her unshakable. One keeps her heart tender, the other keeps her spirit powerful. There was a time when she believed she had to be either strong or gentle. That being strong meant closing her heart, and being graceful meant staying silent. She learned that she could be both fierce and forgiving, bold and humble, powerful and peaceful. She could stand her ground without losing her softness. She could protect her peace without becoming unkind. This woman doesn't just carry grace and strength, she embodies them. When life tests her, she doesn't respond with anger, she responds with understanding. When others try to provoke her, she doesn't lower herself to their level. She rises above with dignity. Her strength allows her to walk away when it's time, and her grace allows her to do it without resentment. She doesn't need revenge to feel powerful. Her peace is proof enough. Grace gives her the patience to trust the process. Strength gives her the courage to face it. Grace teaches her to surrender what she can't control, and strength teaches her to keep showing up anyway. Grace keeps her gentle, strength keeps her grounded. And when the two meet, she becomes a force the world cannot shake. She understands that being strong doesn't mean she doesn't cry. Tears don't make her weak, they make her real. Her emotions aren't a flaw, they're a reflection of her depth. She's learned to honor her feelings without being ruled by them. Her grace allows her to feel deeply, and her strength allows her to heal completely. She doesn't have to prove her strength through struggle anymore. She doesn't need to carry everything alone just to show she's capable. She's learned that strength can mean saying, "I need help." That grace can mean receiving it. That true empowerment isn't about doing everything by herself. It's about knowing when to hold on and when to let go. When life throws challenges her way, she doesn't crumble. She recalibrates. She takes a breath, centers herself, and reminds her soul that she's handled storms before. She's not afraid to fall to her knees because she knows that even in surrender, there's strength. Her grace allows her to bend without breaking. Her strength allows her to rise without fear. In relationships, she leads with empathy, not ego. She listens more than she speaks, loves without losing herself, and forgives without forgetting her worth. She doesn't carry bitterness. She carries boundaries. She can walk away from what hurts her while still wishing it peace. That's grace. She can stand up for herself without needing to tear others down. That's strength. She knows that the world will often misunderstand her balance. Some will mistake her kindness for weakness. Others will mistake her silence for surrender. But she doesn't need to defend herself against misinterpretation. She knows that her strength is felt, not flaunted. Her grace is witnessed, not announced. She doesn't live to prove a point. She lives to live in peace. When she faces disappointment, she doesn't let it define her. She lets it refine her. She chooses to grow through what she goes through. She refuses to become hardened by hurt or blinded by bitterness. She knows that grace doesn't mean letting people walk over her. It means walking away without losing her light. It means knowing that protecting her peace is not selfish, it's sacred. Her strength shows in the way she keeps going when it would be easier to quit. It shows in the way she loves even after being let down. It shows in the way she holds faith when everything feels uncertain. And her grace shows in the way she forgives what she can't forget, in the way she gives kindness even when it's not returned, and in the way she keeps her heart open even when the world tries to close it. She knows that both grace and strength come from the same source, her connection to something higher, something divine. Her grace flows from her faith, and her strength flows from her purpose. The two together create harmony within her spirit. That's why she's unshaken by chaos, unbroken by rejection, and unmoved by negativity. She walks with quiet confidence because she doesn't have to prove what she already knows. She has nothing to prove and everything to protect. Her peace, her purpose, her presence. Her grace allows her to stand tall with humility, and her strength allows her to walk forward with power. She's not interested in appearing perfect. She's interested in being authentic. She understands that true beauty lives in balance, in being gentle but not gullible, kind but not naive, humble but not hidden. She knows that strength without grace can become hardness, and grace without strength can become fragility. but together create resilience, a rare and radiant kind of power that glows from within. Her presence changes rooms because she carries peace and power in the same breath. People feel safe around her, not because she's soft, but because she's secure. She's learned that she doesn't have to choose between being nurturing and being strong. She can nurture others while also protecting herself. She can love deeply without losing her boundaries. She can give freely without being depleted. That's the secret to her glow. She embodies the balance of grace and strength. She knows that life is not about avoiding pain, about responding to it with wisdom. It's not about being untouched by struggle, but about rising from it with softness still intact. She's the woman who can pray for those who hurt her, smile through uncertainty, and rise after every fall. Her grace gives her peace. Her strength gives her perseverance. Together, they make her powerful beyond measure. So when you see her standing tall, calm in her confidence and peaceful in her power, know this, it didn't come easy. She fought to become this balanced, this grounded, this whole. She learned through pain, grew through loss, and healed through grace. And now she walks as a living reminder that grace and strength were never opposites. They were always reflections of the same divine power within her. There comes a moment in every woman's life when she looks at herself in the mirror and realizes she's done shrinking. She's done lowering her standards, done watering down her worth, done settling for less than what her soul deserves. That's the moment her life changes. Because a woman who refuses to settle becomes a woman the world cannot shake. She has tasted disappointment, yes. She has known heartbreak and betrayal. She has given her all to people who gave her halves in return. She has poured her love into empty cups and watched her kindness be taken for granted. Even after all that, she did not let bitterness harden her. She let wisdom awaken her. Now she knows better. She knows who she is, what she brings, and what she deserves. And because she knows, she refuses to settle for anything less than peace, purpose, and respect. This kind of woman walks differently. There's no desperation in her stride, no anxiety in her voice. She has learned that waiting is not wasting time when you know what you're waiting for. She's not chasing attention, she's cultivating alignment. She doesn't need someone to complete her, she's already whole. Her life is not a race to prove something to anyone. It's a journey to honor the value she's already discovered within herself. When she refuses to settle, it's not arrogance, it's awareness. She knows that accepting less than she deserves dishonors everything she fought to become. She's healed too much to go back to what broke her. She's grown too far to fit where she once was. Her peace has become her priority. Anything that disturbs that peace no longer has a place in her life. She's not impressed by empty promises or surface-level affection anymore. She's not moved by flattery or temporary attention. She's learned that real love doesn't confuse you. It comforts you. Real connections don't drain you. They align with your purpose. And real opportunities don't make you compromise your integrity. They expand your growth. She refuses to settle in love because she knows that love is not supposed to hurt, manipulate, or diminish her light. Love should lift her higher, hold her hostage. She knows that being alone is not the same as being lonely. Solitude has become her sanctuary, the space where she hears her own heart, feels her own peace, and strengthens her own faith. She's not afraid of being alone anymore because she has learned to enjoy her own company. When she sits in silence, she feels power, not emptiness. When she walks alone, she feels strength, not sadness. Because she knows that anything she builds with the wrong person will crumble, and anything she builds with purpose will last. She refuses to settle in her dreams as well. She's done dimming her light to fit small spaces. She's done silencing her voice to make others comfortable. She's done apologizing for being ambitious, focused, or passionate. She no longer needs permission to pursue her purpose. She's not waiting for validation, she's walking in vision. She understands that her calling might not be understood by everyone, and that's okay. Her destiny was not meant to be explained, it was meant to be lived. She knows that settling isn't just about relationships, it's about mindset. It's about refusing to live in fear, refusing to believe she's not capable of more, refusing to accept average when excellence is within her reach. She has learned to stop negotiating her worth for acceptance. She has stopped saying yes when her soul is screaming no. She has learned that peace is more valuable than approval. She refuses to settle for a job that drains her spirit, friendships that feel one-sided, conversations that rob her energy. She's learned that it's okay to outgrow people, environments, and versions of herself. Growth demands release. And letting go doesn't mean she's cold. It means she finally understands that she cannot heal in the same place that hurt her. When she refuses to settle, enough. She's not being stubborn, she's being wise. She's no longer impressed by what glitters, she's drawn to what's genuine. She's not chasing comfort, she's chasing calling. She's not looking for attention, she's building intention. She understands that settling is the slow death of the soul, the quiet surrender of dreams, and she refuses to hand over her destiny in exchange for temporary comfort. This woman knows that the waiting season is sacred. She understands that while the world rushes, she can rest. While others settle for almost right, she can trust that exactly right will find her. She's not afraid to say no, because every no to what's not meant for her is a yes to something greater. She's not afraid to walk away, because walking away from what's wrong is the first step toward what's right. She's learned that divine timing is not denial. Just because something hasn't arrived yet doesn't mean it's not coming. She's learned to trust the delay. She knows that the longer the wait, the greater the reward. She knows that what's meant for her will never require her to lose herself to keep it. Her refusal to settle is not a wall. It's a filter. It protects her peace, her purpose, and her energy. It keeps her aligned with her destiny. It keeps her surrounded by people who pour into her, not drain her. It keeps her grounded in faith instead of fear. She's not afraid of outgrowing what no longer serves her. She's not afraid of walking into new chapters alone. She's not afraid of being misunderstood, because she knows that her path is not for everyone to understand. She knows that growth requires separation, and transformation often happens in solitude. She no longer apologizes for expecting more. She knows she deserves respect, love, and alignment. She knows she's worthy of being chosen, not chased. She's worthy of effort, not excuses. She's worthy of consistency, not confusion. And she will wait for it, not out of pride, but out of purpose. Her standards are not too high. They are simply in alignment with her worth. She's not hard to love. She just refuses to be loved halfway. She's not difficult. She's disciplined. She's not picky. She's purposeful. And anyone who cannot meet her at that level is simply not meant to walk beside her. When you see her smiling alone, don't mistake it for loneliness. It's peace. When you see her silent, don't mistake it for weakness. It's wisdom. When you see her let go, don't mistake it for loss. It's liberation. Because she has learned that she doesn't have to settle to feel secure. She doesn't have to accept less to feel loved. She doesn't have to play small to be seen. This woman lives with her head high, her heart guarded, and her spirit free. She walks away from what doesn't grow her and stands firm in what strengthens her. Her refusal to settle is not rebellion. It's reverence for her own soul. It's her way of saying, I trust what's meant for me. It's her way of declaring, I will not lower myself to fit small expectations when I was created for greatness. And because she refuses to settle, she rises. Every time. She rises above disappointment, above fear, above doubt. She rises into her power, her peace, and her purpose. And as she does, the world takes notice, because there's nothing more radiant than a woman who knows her worth and refuses to accept anything less. She's not waiting for something to complete her. She's walking in the fullness of who she already is. That fullness, that wholeness makes her unstoppable. She refuses to settle because she finally understands she is the prize, she is the peace, she is the blessing. And any life, love, or dream that doesn't recognize that simply isn't worthy of her. Pain is not her enemy, it's her instructor. It's not the end of her story, it's the beginning of her awakening. A woman who has learned from pain carries a different kind of wisdom. quiet strength that doesn't need to shout to be heard. She's been through storms that could have broken her, but instead they built her. Every wound became a window through which she saw herself more clearly. Every heartbreak became a lesson that taught her how to love herself deeper. Every disappointment became direction that guided her closer to her purpose. There was a time when pain left her questioning everything: her worth, her future, even her faith. She couldn't see the purpose in the suffering. The tears felt endless, the nights heavy, and the silence deafening. She begged for answers that didn't come right away. But over time, she realized something powerful. Pain was never there to destroy her. It was there to develop her. It stripped away what wasn't meant for her and revealed what was. Pain has a way of refining the soul. It burns away illusions, false attachments, and fragile dependencies. It removes the masks we wear for acceptance and forces us to stand bare in truth. Through her pain, she met herself, the raw, real, and resilient version of her that didn't need validation to stand tall. She learned that the same fire that hurt her could also purify her. She began to see that every painful season had purpose. The heartbreak that broke her open also taught her boundaries. The betrayal that shattered her trust taught her discernment. The loss that left her grieving taught her gratitude. The rejection that made her cry taught her self-worth. Pain didn't take her power. It revealed it. There was a time when she prayed for the pain to end, but now she thanks God that it didn't end too soon. Because if it had, she would have walked away before the transformation. Growth is not gentle. It's uncomfortable, messy, and often lonely. It's in those painful moments that the deepest healing happens. She learned that endurance births strength, that patience cultivates peace, that surrender opens the door to freedom. She doesn't look at her scars with shame anymore. She looks at them with pride. They remind her that she's a survivor. They're proof that she fought battles no one saw and still showed up. They're the silent testimony that she walked through the fire and came out gold. Her scars don't tell a story of defeat. They tell a story of divine restoration. Pain taught her to stop clinging to what hurts just because it's familiar. Taught her that healing sometimes requires letting go, even of the people or dreams she once thought she couldn't live without. It taught her that peace is worth the price of separation, that her heart is sacred ground and not everyone deserves access to it. She's learned to sit with her pain instead of running from it. She's learned to listen to what it's trying to say instead of numbing it with distractions. Pain whispers truths that comfort cannot. It reveals where we've placed our worth, where we've ignored our intuition, where we've silenced our needs. She no longer sees pain as punishment, but as a sacred teacher, one that lovingly but firmly guides her toward growth. There were nights when she broke down, yet every sunrise found her rising again. That's the quiet miracle of her journey. She never stayed down for long. Pain may have knocked her to her knees. Faith helped her stand again. She's learned that sometimes being broken is the only way to become whole. She now understands that not everyone who hurt her was sent to destroy her. Some were sent to awaken her. Some people were lessons, not losses. Some endings were blessings in disguise. The closure she never received became clarity. The apology that never came became acceptance. The goodbye that hurt her became the push she needed to grow. She doesn't fear pain anymore. She respects it. She understands its purpose. She knows that every trial carries treasure, every wound carries wisdom, and every ending carries the seed of a new beginning. She no longer asks, she asks, what is this teaching me? And when she asks that question, pain transforms into power. Pain taught her compassion. She learned to see others differently. She learned that people act from their own wounds, and sometimes their actions reflect their pain, not her worth. She learned to forgive, not because they deserved it, but because she deserved peace. Forgiveness became her liberation, not her limitation. Pain taught her patience. It taught her that healing doesn't happen overnight. Some days she felt strong, other days fragile, but she kept moving step by step, breath by breath. She learned that growth is not a straight line, it's a spiral. She may revisit old wounds, but each time she does, she heals them a little deeper. Pain taught her presence. It taught her to appreciate the quiet moments, the laughter after tears, the sunrise after the storm. She learned to be grateful for little things, the peace in her morning coffee, the strength in her breath, the calm in her spirit. She learned that joy is not the absence of pain, but the ability to find light within it. Pain taught her protection. It taught her to listen when her spirit feels uneasy, to walk away when something disturbs her peace, to stop making excuses for people who continue to wound her. It gave her the courage to say no, the strength to set boundaries, and the grace to protect her energy. She carries herself differently now. She's not easily shaken. She doesn't react to every storm because she's already survived hurricanes. She doesn't entertain chaos because she's finally learned the value of calm. She's not easily impressed because she knows the difference between attention and intention. Pain stripped her of illusions, but it also clothed her in authenticity. Taught her that vulnerability is not weakness, it's bravery. It's standing in the truth of your story and saying, "This is who I am. This is what I've survived, and I am still standing." Now, she uses her pain as purpose. She speaks healing where there was once hurt. She comforts others with the same compassion that at once comforted her. Her story becomes a source of strength for those still finding their way. She realizes that what once broke her was actually building her to bless others. She no longer fears brokenness because she knows broken things can still be beautiful. Broken crayons still color. Broken hearts still love. Broken women still rise. She knows that the cracks in her heart let the light in, and through those cracks, she now shines brighter than ever before. Pain has taught her resilience, humility, empathy, and grace. It's taught her that endings are just disguised beginnings, and that healing is not becoming who she was before the pain. It's becoming who she was meant to be after it. Now, when pain tries to visit again, she doesn't panic. She welcomes it like an old teacher, ready to learn something new. Because she knows that every challenge carries growth, every tear carries transformation, and every trial carries wisdom. Pain no longer defines her. It refines her. It no longer holds her back. It propels her forward. It no longer scares her. It strengthens her. She is no longer a victim of what hurt her. She is a student of what healed her. So she walks now not with fear, but with faith. Not with bitterness, with gratitude, not with weakness, but with wisdom. Because she knows the truth that changed everything. Pain doesn't destroy a woman who knows her worth. It develops her into who she was always destined to become. There is a different kind of strength in a woman who knows why she was created. She moves with a sense of peace that confuses those who expect her to crumble. She doesn't chase every opportunity, and she doesn't panic when doors close because she knows who she is and what she's called to do. Her confidence doesn't come from her circumstances. It comes from her calling. She's anchored in purpose, and that's why she's unshakable. This woman has walked through enough storms to understand that not every battle is hers to fight, and not every voice deserves her attention. She's learned to be still, not because she's weak, because she trusts the timing of her destiny. She's no longer moved by every wave that rises against her because her foundation is deeper than the surface. She knows that her purpose was planted long before anyone's opinion could uproot it. When the world tries to define her by her past, she smiles because she knows her story didn't end there. When others doubt her potential, she keeps going because her validation doesn't come from applause. It comes from alignment. She's learned that purpose doesn't require popularity, requires perseverance. Her peace doesn't depend on who agrees with her because she's not seeking approval. She's fulfilling assignment. Her purpose is her anchor, and that's why she doesn't drift. It holds her steady when life gets unpredictable. It reminds her who she is when confusion tries to speak louder than clarity. It keeps her grounded when success tempts her to forget humility. It keeps her steady when failure tries to whisper shame. She's rooted in something deeper, a divine mission that fuels her steps. Even when the path is uncertain, there was a time when she doubted her place, when she questioned whether she was enough. She compared herself to others, thinking their pace was proof of her delay. But life taught her something sacred. Purpose isn't a race, it's a rhythm. It's not about how fast you move, It's about how faithfully you walk. She learned to trust the process even when progress felt invisible. She stopped rushing and started resting in the knowing that what's meant for her will always find her. This woman has faced loss, but she didn't lose herself. She's been betrayed, but she didn't let bitterness take root. She's been overlooked, but she didn't forget her value. Because when you're anchored in purpose, rejection doesn't break you, it redirects you. Delay doesn't discourage you, it develops you. Failure doesn't define you, it refines you. Everything she's been through has become preparation for what she's becoming. She understands that purpose isn't always glamorous. Sometimes it's lonely, sometimes it's heavy, sometimes it's quiet. But even in the silence, she trusts that something sacred is growing. She knows that every season has meaning. The waiting, the working, the weeping, all of it shapes her for the next chapter. She's not in a hurry to escape the process because she's learned that strength is built in the stillness. She no longer needs to understand every detail to keep walking. She knows that faith and purpose walk hand in hand. Her steps are guided. Even when she can't see the full map, her trust has become her compass. She's learned that she doesn't have to force what's already written for her. She just has to keep showing up with faith. Her purpose keeps her calm when others are panicking. It keeps her steady when life gets uncertain. She doesn't measure her worth by external success because she knows that purpose isn't about status. It's about service. It's about impact. It's about living in alignment with what she was created to do. When adversity comes, she doesn't ask, "Why me?" She asks, "What is this teaching me?" Because she's learned that even the hard seasons serve a higher purpose. Pain isn't punishment, it's preparation. Setbacks aren't signs of failure, they're setups for growth. She knows that everything, even the things that once broke her, working together for her good. Her purpose has taught her peace. She doesn't need to control everything anymore because she trusts that everything is connected to something greater. She's not striving, she's surrendering. She's not chasing, she's aligning. When people leave, when plans fall apart, when life doesn't go her way, she doesn't collapse. She reminds herself, if it's not mine, it's not meant to anchor me. Her peace is rooted in purpose, not perfection. She knows that when you are anchored, storms can shake the surface, but they cannot uproot your foundation. The wind may blow, but her roots go deep. She may bend, but she will not break. She may cry, but she will not quit. She understands that resilience isn't about never falling, it's about always rising. This kind of woman doesn't need to compete with anyone else. She's too focused on what she's been called to build. Her lane is sacred. Her journey is unique. She celebrates others without comparison because she knows that purpose has no rivalry, only responsibility. She's not threatened by someone else's success because she understands that their blessing doesn't diminish her destiny. She's learned that sometimes purpose requires isolation. Sometimes it requires walking away from the familiar, stepping into uncertainty, trusting what she cannot see. She's learned that divine separation is not rejection, it's refinement. She's being prepared for something she can't yet comprehend. She's unshakable not because she's invincible, because she's intentional. Her strength doesn't come from being fearless. It comes from having faith even when she's afraid. She stands tall, not because the wind isn't blowing, but because her roots are deep enough to withstand it. She's learned that peace is not the absence of the storm. It's the presence of purpose in the midst of it. She's not trying to prove herself anymore. She's already approved. She doesn't need to force her way into rooms. The doors meant for her will open naturally. She doesn't chase platforms. She builds purpose from within. Her worth is not in her performance, it's in her being. She's grounded, guided, and guarded by grace. When life shifts, plans fall apart. When people misunderstand her, she stays calm because she knows that what's anchored cannot be shaken. Her focus is not on what she's losing, but on what she's learning. Every detour still leads to destiny. Every challenge still carries meaning. Every no still makes room for the right yes. She's unshakable because her foundation is not built on opinions, outcomes, or temporary feelings. It's built on something eternal, her divine assignment. She's not waiting for validation. She's walking in revelation. She's not living for applause. She's living for alignment. Her peace doesn't fluctuate with seasons because it flows from within. Her eyes are fixed forward. She knows her steps are ordered even when they're uncertain. She knows that no weapon formed against her purpose will prosper. She knows that what's meant for her will never miss her. And because she knows this deeply, unwaveringly, she cannot be shaken. She's the woman who walks through chaos but carries calm. She stands tall in uncertainty because she knows who holds her future. She doesn't crumble under pressure. She turns pressure into power. She doesn't let fear silence her voice. She speaks with conviction because her message carries meaning. She's unshakable because she knows that her life is not random. Every experience, every heartbreak, every delay, every victory, all of it is a piece of her purpose. Nothing is wasted. Every moment matters. Every lesson lifts her higher. When people look at her and wonder how she stays so strong, how she keeps her peace, how she continues to shine despite what she's faced, she smiles because they don't see the anchor. They see the woman, but not the weight of purpose holding her steady. They see her movement, not the faith beneath her steps. She is unshakable because she is anchored in purpose. Her life is not built on sand. It's built on a divine foundation that storms cannot destroy. She stands firm, not because life is easy, because she knows who she is, why she's here, and who holds her in place. She's not just surviving, she's thriving. She's not just existing, she's evolving. Her peace, her power, and her purpose are one. And that unshakable foundation makes her unstoppable. Because when a woman is anchored in purpose, no storm can move her, no loss can break her, and no fear can silence her. She is steady. She is strong. She is chosen. She is unshakable, not because the waves aren't real, but because her anchor runs deep into the heart of divine destiny.